Europa Universalis V is here. It's live and alive after 12 plus years of EU4. We have the next installment of our favorite game. And fellas, we need to talk about it. I have some thoughts. You might have guessed from the title of this video, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. So let's get into it. Full disclosure, this video is coming from an EU4 player perspective. I'm sure Victoria 3 and Crusader Kings player will have different opinions. If you're a fan of EU4 like me, it's very likely you enjoy the map painting aspect of the game. You like seeing the borders of your empire expand beyond the start date. You like to blob out and engage in that power fantasy. Power fantasy is one of the main tenets of video game design. It's that shot of dopamine you feel in your brain when you expand your measly 2-province starter in the desert of Arabia and take over the mighty Ottomans and Mamluks in 200 years. That power fantasy is what keeps us coming back to play video games. In the context of grand strategy map-based games, map painting is the power fantasy. We all like to see the beautiful colors of, say, Rome in EU4, or the only reason you release a Nobody in Africa and play the whole game because you like the idea of painting the map pink. Well, in EU5, that early game power fantasy is missing. The gameplay loop that EU5 is based on has economy front and center, and then comes military as an afterthought, at least the first 50 to 100 years or so. You have to be patient, build up the infrastructure, maybe grab one or more of the provinces with high value goods near you. Once you have the economic might, you can think about territorial expansion. Or can you? Control in EU5 is similar to autonomy in EU4. It's a debuff, a modifier that determines how much value you get out of a location or a province. It affects taxes, manpower, crown control, etc. Control is calculated by the location's proximity to the capital for the most part. The problem is there aren't a lot of ways to increase control. You can build roads, centralize, and the tech improves with time. So if you don't have a lot of control, you don't get a lot out of these locations. The game is telling you, hey, you don't have a lot of incentive to take that location right now. Take an example here with my Castile playthrough. I got Granada and all of southern Iberia location in a couple of wars, like you should. The control map mode shows we have zero control right now here because we are still coring the provinces, called integration in EU4. Not only the integration takes a really long time, but even after coring, we won't have a high control. These rural locations have 18% max control. The towns and cities have slightly higher, and if you have more locations with lower control, your legitimacy cost and your stability cost go up while these new locations are not contributing enough to the economy. That's basically the overextension mechanic from EU4 wrapped up in a less transparent setting. I'm not saying it's a bad game mechanic, but I think it does need some tuning and transparency. I'm Castile, and taking provinces in Iberia should give me slightly more control. Expanding here should give us more tax income from pops or the high value goods we have here, such as saffron, dyes, and silk. But that's my thoughts on controls. Let's talk about the geography of goods and pops next. EU4 lets us customize a lot of things. You can manipulate markets, build specific industries, slowly build roads and infrastructure so you have a solid base for late game shenanigans. However, there are two hard caps, goods and pops. Obviously, you can't move the goods, they are logged on each location. Some parts of the world are very prosperous, such as Korea, Japan, India have better good value density than most of Europe. Now, if your argument is about realism, that's how it is in real world. We'll get to that later. Similar to goods, pops are somewhat logged into provinces as well. There is a pop migration mechanic, although I don't think we can really mass migrate pops. It's still a new game, and I might be wrong about this, we'll see. But as far as I can tell, India and China region will always have way more pops than other parts of the world. More pops means more people to work on your factories, and more pops also generate more taxes. Same goes with goods. My point is, some areas are inherently significantly more profitable than others. That was also the case with EU4, but there we could click a magic button to develop provinces using monarch points. It would give us instant injection of more money and more manpower. Then you could expand into the prosperous areas and get the snowball rolling early. While EU4 doesn't have a magic develop province button, and it restricts you from expanding early game aggressively, so the whole game feels slower. Now, I don't really mind slower games, but there was a reason why playing tall in EU4 wasn't super popular. It's not always fun to just sit and wait for infrastructure buildings to complete while speed 5ing. Yes, there are events and such always, but overall pacing in this game is definitely slower than EU4. You have to slowly build up the power base with economy buildings and roads. Occasional wars with your raised levies help, but the first 50 years is mostly playing economy simulator while trying to align your nation's value to where you want them to be. One of the fixes for slower pacing is automating some part of gameplay. The automation seems to work for the most part. I haven't done extensive testing on it yet. One of the things I did notice is using automation for putting trades in market is a must. If you disable this and try to find profitable trades yourself, you will get notifications like these ones constantly. So every game tick, you need to pause, look for another trade if needed. It's a lot of clicking, which slows down the gameplay further. I have left this on automate so far and it seems to work well. There are a lot more things to automate in the menu, and as we play the game more, I hope we'll find a good balance between automating things and playing the game to improve the pacing. I think this is the one that people will agree with me most. Browsing through the nations in EU5, it's not very obvious which nations excel at which part of the game. You would know England is going to be good for naval gameplay, but it's not very obvious from any of the UI screens. The reason is because EU5 doesn't have national ideas. National ideas in EU4 defined how you played the game. You could choose to play an economic nation like Netherlands or a military one like Prussia. The kicker is that national ideas do exist in EU5, they're just buried deep in the advanced tree and government reforms. So technically, there isn't a lack of identity, more a lack of transparency, and that might be a UI UX issue. I'm not an expert on UI UX, and I won't know where to start fixing the UI problems in EU4, so I'll keep this brief. First of all credit to the UX team though. The amount of information you can get from UI is amazing considering how many different game mechanics you need to keep track of. That said, there's definitely a room for improvement. The font and spacing on UI seems off compared to Wiki 3 and CK3 screens, to me at least. The advanced tree UI definitely needs a major overhaul. There have been a few videos on YouTube talking about the passivity of AI. I don't think AI is bad per se. I think EU5 AI needs more direction, like a mission tree overhaul would help, and railroading AI in in-game situations would help too. AI has already massively improved in beta versions, so I'm hoping that trend will continue and we'll see more competent AI with updates. I like the EU5 map. I like the map modes, but it looks rather flat. Now, I'm not playing on highest graphic settings, so there's some loss of visual quality there, but we had similar issues with EU4, and I'm sure everyone who played EU4 knows about visual mods like graphical map improvements and thick borders. So I guess we'll just wait for the community to make map mods which look better. The other aspect of art in EU5 is the use of AI. It's not very obvious and not very blatant, but if you start looking, you will find signs of AI art and loading screens and other artworks in the game. You might be okay with this use of AI art, or you might not. I think it's a longer conversation piece. I'll explore it in a separate video at some point. Personally, I'm against the use of AI for art. This one isn't a criticism for EU5, it's more an observation of how much Paradox games take inspiration from other Paradox titles. A good example in EU4 was the government capacity, which I think was inspired by Stellaris Empire Size, I think it's called. The economic system in EU5 is a watered-down system from Wiki 3. It's nowhere near as detailed as Wiki 3, but you can definitely see the similarities. The character system in EU5 is taken from CK3. Again, it's nowhere near as complex as CK3, but it is an important system where you can give your cabinet positions to members of your court. And cabinets are valued at, I think, 25% power, should it be crown power or one of the states. So you should try to educate your heirs to have high personality traits to be competent cabinet members so you can have more crown power. From Hoi 4, and this is just my perspective and I might be wrong as I'm not a big Hoi 4 player, but the gameplay loop of setting up the infrastructure for the first few decades, then going to war, that feels like a Hoi 4 approach. The point I'm trying to make in this section is that if you know all the borrowed mechanics in EU5, it feels less like a shiny, completely new thing, if that makes sense. I don't mind it per se, but it does take the illusion of novelty down a notch for me. This video has already gone longer than I anticipated, so I'll just summarize here. I think EU5 is a good game, and I like playing it. It's simple as that. But as a fan of EU4, which is very war-focused, EU5 is different. It's a more well-rounded game in some aspects, I guess you can say, not just a war simulator or a map-painting machine. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm RadioRes, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.